Okay, we need to go over this last little bit from chapter 3. And this sort of a review would be of your graphing the rational functions. You're given this function. The first thing that I always do is I want it in factored form. I want to see it in both multiplied together and factored form if possible. And now the things that it asks you to do are fine from here. The vertical intercepts. This is also known as the y-intercept. The y-intercept occurs when x is 0. So we find f of 0, you simply plug in 0 in either place, and you're going to come up with negative 2 over negative 5, which is 2/5. So that's the point 0 2/5. And that's 4/10 when you get to the decimal form. Your horizontal or your x-intercepts. This is where the numerator equals 0. Well, your numerator was simply just x minus 2. That equals 0 at 2. So that is the 1.20. That is a x-intercept. Vertical asymptotes next. What makes the denominator 0? They occur when the denominator is 0. Well, 5 and negative 1 are what's going to make the denominator 0. So x equals 5, x equals negative 1 would be the vertical asymptote. That's just little vertical dotted lines there. Horizontal asymptotes. This is just something that I found, and if you call the numerator m and the denominator n, if the numerator is less than the denominator, it's 0. If the numerator is greater than the denominator, there is no horizontal, and if they're equal, you divide the lead coefficients. Just kind of help you to remember. In this particular problem, the power of the denominator, which is 2, the highest power, is less than the numerator, which is 1. So since your denominator, the power of the denominator is greater than the power of the numerator. The denominator is greater than the numerator, or that's the way it is. It is x equals 0 would be the asymptote. Now, the graph for this, and Desmos is right here. That's your y-intercept. The 2/5 or 0.4. The x-intercept is at 2. Over here, I've shown you where it's undefined at negative 1 and 5, which would be your asymptotes. The second problem says given this function there, the first thing you're going to try to do is to factor it. Well, the top has common factor of 2. Factor that out. The bottom factors into factors of x squared, x and x, factors of 4 that add up to negative 4, negative 2, and negative 2. The top factors again into 2 times x minus 3 and x plus 1. If you foil that back together, you'll see it. The bottom is actually the same factor squared, which kind of affects the graph in that it approaches the same, going the same direction from left and right. Your vertical intercepts, your y-intercepts, everything would be 0. You end up with negative 3/2 or negative 1.5. Your horizontal intercepts, well, that's going through the factoring where the numerator equals 0 again. So that would be 3 and negative 1. The x-intercepts occur at the points 3, 0, negative 1, 0. The vertical asymptote is where the bottom equals 0. It's a double 0, but it only has one vertical asymptote. The horizontal asymptote, I still don't like these. I think I would do better with D's and N's instead of an N meaning the bottom. But here they're the same. So when they're the same, you divide the leading coefficients. Okay, so the leading coefficients here are 2 and 1, and 2 divided by 1 is 2. So that's your horizontal asymptote would be occurring at 2, and it's kind of approaching it as we go to the extremes. Your vertical asymptote was at 2. Your y-intercept's -1 and 3. Your y-intercept was at -3/2 or -1.5. I hope this helps you understand this a little bit.